Hi, I'm Lori with Interior Design Community, and this is To the Trade. And I have Niall with me. Hi, Niall. Excited to have you with us. We are really going to dig into some amazing topics that I know the designers really want to hear. But first, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, hi, I'm Joy Maier with the Aspiring Home Interiors, and I'm very excited to be here. I started the Aspiring Home, the blog side, which I think we're going to talk a little bit today, about 13 years ago, and then started the actual full-time firm 5 years ago in 2020, and right when the world shut down. So it's perfect
Uh,
timing, but it worked out great. So, yeah, and then before that, I did wedding. I was an event planner and wedding designer for many years and got tired of everything you did, the gorgeousness going away in 2 hours, and all you had was pictures left. And so I also the exhaustion level was out the roof and decided, you know what? I love interiors. And I kind of went back to what was my heart and started doing a little bit here and there, and then eventually the kids grew up and I had the time. So
yeah, yeah.
here
I,
we
I
are.
I feel you. I mean, I'm not at that stage, new empty nester. So feeling that I have a lot more freedom and time and what am I going to do with it? And how am I going to, you know, attack it? I think it's super fascinating that you came into the industry through blogging.
Mhm.
And I know, sometimes there are designers who that's less well received, but however we get here, I think is a valid choice, especially if you're bringing in obviously the wealth of information you had on organization and planning must have been incredibly beneficial to you, in starting this. I mean, you have to do so many, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts in wedding planning. It's the
So
same
many.
thing. Yeah.
Yes, I
Uh,
used to pride myself. I could get the wedding accomplished within 30 seconds of my agenda. So I would, that was a very good feeling. But I will tell you, interiors, it's a little different. Uh,
sure,
that
sure.
agenda does not jive all in the same day like you would hope, but that's okay because we learn how to be flexible. And the great thing was starting out in the event planning, and I have an associate's degree in marketing. And so that really was an opportunity through the blog too. And so
Yeah.
I have a little varied background, which has been fun.
What do you think is so here I'm just going to lay this out and be vulnerable about the interior design community. We started 12 years ago. We originally were on Google Plus. We used to do these web shows.
Mhm.
Then and Google Plus was the place to be for blogging. So you probably were
Yes.
there too because
Yes.
if you dropped a link, it would automatically index. They built this thing called authorship, which was like all about how to get authority in a specific subject. It was
Mhm.
really great when it was working.
When it
Uh,
was working.
and then, they just caring because they weren't growing fast enough. And so
Mhm.
I noticed when they do an annual conference. When they stopped talking about Google Plus, I was okay. They're not
Yep.
doing this. So knew I
Mhm.
needed to look somewhere else. And I did. I was one of the earlier adopters on Instagram and really, devoted a lot of time to thinking about how it was very different from Google Plus where people could just put their own questions in. So I had to
Right.
learn how to translate what we were doing on Google Plus photos, like the work. So we did our question of the day, we did our memes, we did all of those things, and we've matured and we have a system now on Instagram that works really well for us. But there's always new things, and I always encourage people if you really want to gain success and grow, and that's something you're looking at, you need to be an early adopter.
Yes.
But there's also said for the old standby. So I really didn't focus on I just didn't have the time,
Mhm.
and but I always taught people what a blog does, certainly for local SEO, for a designer who's trying to like get, you know, out there in their local community. A good way to build up the local long-term tail keywords is by having those blog posts. And
Yeah.
so I taught it, but I didn't do it. And I knew I was right because I knew bloggers that listened to what I was saying that had good success, but I didn't have the proof myself. And I knew an email list was super valuable. So I was growing my email list, but I wasn't consistent about the email list. And in the last year, I have been. So we built our database and we started building our blogs. We started getting out there and being consistent. And because we already laid this foundation, we're going off the chain. Like we're getting, so beginning of January 1st, I had 109,000 page views per month. And I was like, okay, a hard goal by the end of the year is I want to be at 500,000 page views. But in the back of my mind, I was like, I'd really be at a million.
Why
You
not? Why
know,
not? Yes.
that would be good. Mid January, we were at 300,000 page views, and it was apparent that I'm going to hit 500 by in just in the few tweaks I was doing in January. If I just consistently do them in February, I will be at
Mhm.
500. So I can now say my hard goal is a million page views by the end of the year. And blogging is supposed to be dead. It's supposed to be
Yes.
no longer a thing. But I get regular messages just like podcasting here from people who are like, this is so great. This is such a resource. Thank you so much for covering this. This was,
Yeah.
we typically take our questions of the day and
Mhm.
then turn those into blog posts. And then we take our most
Perfect.
like great answers from the designers and make those quotes in the blog post. And then when
Mhm.
we share it again, we're tagging those people that we quoted and tackling topics the designers are bringing us. So they're bringing us like, you know, is ageism in design a thing, or who should we be using for accounting software and things that are really valuable to any designer, I would think. So the
Yeah.
topics are very topical. And I just
Very
enjoy
current
it.
event, kind of.
How
Yeah.
you feel about it because it has changed the world of blogging. It's much more competitive. ChatGPT is becoming a new avenue of search, and I don't know how that's going to play in SEO
Mhm.
for blogging. I don't know how people are going to find local people through ChatGPT, but I would assume that's going to be something that we discover, as we
Mhm.
go further, because that's what it's doing is essentially is giving you answers based on searching blogs and internet.
So we need to
Yeah,
keep feeding the beast, basically.
sure.
One of the things that I did notice on Google was when you ask it a question, and the first thing we see is the AI version.
Yeah,
There's a little copy note at the bottom, and you can click, and it will take you to where they found that information. So that's very valuable for designers. So if you're out there and you're giving great information and the AI picks it up because somebody happened to ask a question, they're going to go to your website and they may become a client. So
right.
I
Yeah,
think we look and strive for the positive in it. Yeah, there's going to be some nefarious, dark stuff happening, because
sure.
it's just the way it is, but I saw that and was very excited for the possibilities because it blogging still has a opportunity to lend credibility to designers and to the work and kinda just to help people feel, like, comfortable and, connected because that's the one thing you want when you bring someone into your home to design it is someone that you feel like you can trust them, and if you can feel that trust through their writing and through the blogging and connection and that, the AI is actually picking up the words they're saying, then, I can let this person into the inner sanctum that I need to change and they're not going to judge me, but they're going to help me. So I think kind of lending us an opportunity to be, like you were saying, more vulnerable, but in a way that we still stay professional. And that's what our clients need.
Right, yeah. But for the years, you were
Mhm.
educating yourself about these topics, not
Yes.
necessarily in the interior design industry, conference and now the
Mhm.
Design Influencers Conference, but also outside conferences that had to do with blogging itself. So
Oh, yes.
I'm curious how that helped you and if you
Mhm.
felt like it was worth the expense of looking for outside resources.
Yes. So I will definitely say it was 100% worth it because I'm in a few groups on Facebook, and we have noticed the changes, just like the core vital update and Google's going through this lovely roller coaster of how they're, changing things and pulling things out. And some people feel like, oh, well, we need to go to Bing now. Well, as a designer, we're so focused on design that this all kind of runs past us. And so when you go to these conferences that are built for blogging, you're going to get kind of inundated in a good way with everything that's happening now and what you need to fix now. So, just like the long tail keywords, they come in and out of fashion. And
Sure.
so your
Long
blog,
form content comes in and out of
yes,
fashion. Now it used to be
yes,
like you need your blog post to be 2,000 word your old post. Now they're like, you
exactly.
can be shorter. Maybe you don't update the old post, you make a new information. It gets
And
confusing.
that is ridiculous and this is something that I think is also freeing for designers is we don't have to go to that extent because we're not making money necessarily through the blog. We're doing it as an opportunity so that people can find our authenticity and trust us. And for us to be able to exhibit our knowledge and to connect with brands and for brands to connect with us. And so, some of that we can take off our shoulders and breathe a little bit. Whereas people who are blogging consistently to make a paycheck and income, it's a lot for them because they're constantly retweaking the material. And I've seen a lot of anxiety through the Facebook
Oh yeah.
pages
I had
of
a
people.
conference with do you know Laurel Byrne? I'm sure you might know her. She has a blog and she
Mhm.
was an interior designer, but she's fully switched over to blogging, and
Wow.
she makes her living
Mhm.
blogging. She bought a beautiful new home in Boston
Very
blogging,
good.
She's had highs, where she was getting 10,000 page views a month. She's
Mhm.
had, lows where, the bottom drops out from under you. She gets
Yes.
a lot of her money through ads,
Mhm.
but some of it through partnerships and digital products and things like that. And you know, she's experienced this too, like the email list not growing.
Right.
Maybe people are dropping off. Like it's harder to get people signing up for the email. It's harder for them to be consistently reading. It's always the new rules with how people get the email. Because of course we notice we drop an email, we get a great open rate, we get a great click-through rate. We're playing with the
Yes.
titles and what we're putting in there all the time. So we make it
Mhm.
really information heavy and not and very useful.
Mhm.
So, but it's hard. It's like you're also feeling like you're boxing in the dark because you don't know if you're ending up in spam, you don't know if it's
It's
like
so true.
the
It's so
people that
true.
consistently want the information are getting the information.
Or they unsubscribe from you once they get the information from you. So then you're like, okay, if you can't take it personal, but you kind of
No.
do.
You kinda do. I have a rule on that has I'm 12 years of doing social media, 12 years of doing lots of different content out there. I have a firm rule, don't look.
Yes.
That's what I tell
It's
everybody.
a very
Don't look
wise
what
rule.
there are some things that tell you, like, who's
Mhm.
unsubscribing, do not look because sometimes it's your best friend. And I
No
have it
kidding.
from friends or from, like so I've seen it happen to other designers. I'm like, "I'm just never gonna look," and I don't, and my feelings never get hurt because I don't know.
It's very
So, if you
smart.
wanna
Very
unsubscribe
smart.
with me, that's fine. I'll never
Mhm.
know who it is because I don't pay attention to it because I don't want my feelings hurt because I'm very sensitive. I'll be like, "You don't like
Yeah.
me." Or, I don't know.
Oh, well, many years ago, it was the thing to do these big pop-ups on your blog. And so and then you had to take and kind of shade out the X. So then it took them a while to find it because the longer they were on the blog, the more Google liked. I mean, all these
Right,
little
right. You're
tricks.
always trying
But
to
then
group
people
people.
did not like that and they
No.
got a little miffed. And so then you're going, okay, do I anger people and they don't come back? Or do I, how do I balance this? Because I mean, the whole point of having this information is to bring education and hopefully some good to the masses. And if
Sure.
I'm making you upset, then you're not coming back, or I
Right.
wouldn't. So
Well, the
it's
other
just,
trick is like now and they say it's not a trick, but I think it's a trick, obviously,
uh,
is when you have multiple different kinds of newsletters. So like on LinkedIn, for instance, LinkedIn's
mhm,
terrible about it. And actually the next door or the neighbor app, whatever those are, they are the worst.
yes.
I just went in to unsubscribe to everything and every single thing, like notifications of
Mhm,
friends
mhm.
posting to you. has 20 check boxes to check off to get them
And then they
to
ask you, "Arilla, are you really sure?
are
You
you
know, do
really
you
sure?
really?"
I know, but they have, like, at least 150 check boxes
Mhm.
for how many different ways they're communicating with you. So if you're not unsubscribing to all of it, you're getting email
That's
you're like,
right.
"Why am I still getting emails? I unsubscribed. Why am I?"
It's
Because they have
exhausting.
a million different newsletters, and then
Yes.
even after you've unsubscribed from all of them, they can
Mhm.
still add a new one tomorrow, and you're
Oh,
subscribed to
yeah.
that, you know? So, it's very
Yeah.
frustrating. So I decided not to do that. We're one and
I think
done.
that was wise.
If you don't wanna be on our newsletter, that's fine. I don't wanna prolong it. But we also hear from people who are like, "You're not I'm on your newsletter, but I don't get it," or "I wanna
Mhm.
subscribe, but I don't get it. I don't know how to do it." And it's just that kind of stuff is you're
There's
always
always
battling
something.
it. You're always battling it.
Yes, and so
There's
then you're right, and so then you try to figure out, how much life and time do I give to this and the value it's producing versus, the client project that I have to get done because we've got a deadline to meet. And so it's a balance. And then I
yeah,
think instead of us learning the balance, we just kind of throw it to the side and go, well, I'm not doing it. But we're losing out on a great opportunity. I think we are. I think
yeah, I
it's
do
very
too.
valuable. I've talked to a few designers and we were just talking about them starting their blog so that they could start their newsletters. And I said, well, when you take care of that blog, make sure you're going into Google Search Console, click, type it in that URL and make sure everything's looking good because you might have a little bump here or there that it'll catch. And I can't tell you how many did not know to go there. So I
Sure.
think the going to these blog conferences kind of help you get a roadmap to be able to do what you can do, pick and choose what will help you in your business and what you can do at the time. Because otherwise it's overwhelmed. And I think just as human beings, we live in a state of overwhelm.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what it is. It seems to be the way the world is today. It's just
Sure.
overwhelmed. And
Yeah.
so the last thing you want to do is to add more to it. So I think going and being able to just kind of absorb what you can and take back the meat that you can, the appetizer, whatever you want to do to kind of help your business is great. I will tell you that the blog side, I still run it as its own separate website because it has so much value. And I do have a separate one that's for the interiors, but I've linked them, which is really great because I have backlink,
Right.
constantly. And so that's kind
Constantly.
of fun. And I do have ads and all those ads and all of the things basically pay for it. So that's kind of a exciting thing to do and something to think about that you could actually be paying because websites are not cheap and the
Right.
maintenance of websites are not cheap. But
No.
if you can make it happen, being able to have that income coming in every month to cover that takes the pressure off. So it may take some time to kind of and some stress to get yourself fed up. But once you do, you're kind of helping yourself because that's an income that you can earmark and take that stress off yourself a little bit
Yeah.
because that's going to constantly make money, especially through Pinterest and that's a whole nother
Well, I know. Yeah.
area at Pinterest, and
Yes.
Pinterest has changed a lot
Oh
too,
gosh.
and
I just
it's its
had
own
I just
search engine.
Yeah, I had a designer just reach out to or she's a design student, reach out to me
Uh-huh.
this last week, and she said, "I'm trying to find design projects on Pinterest, and everything I find is AI and will
Yeah,
leads to Temu." So she's like,
it's
"But what are real design projects?" I'm like, "You follow anybody that I'm following. They're all the
mhm,
real designers. Go through, look at their websites. They are real. That's real design work." But
mhm,
it's hard when everything it's kind of and I'm sure it's the same thing with blogging and that there's more and more AI articles where
yeah,
I mean, there's going to be. I even
mhm,
use AI as a
mhm,
foundation, and then we
mhm,
build a little bit into it. I really think you have to have at least 200 words that are your own, or it's not gonna come up as original
mhm.
content for sure,
Yes, yes,
minimum. But
but
it
it
can
does
give you,
help.
like, that idea, you know what I mean? Okay, I really what do I
Absolutely,
wanna do? Or what should the title be? Metadata be in this? My keywords that I
and
want to put in.
especially if you're not so attuned and educated about those items, that's
Mhm.
where the Chat GTP comes in handy
Yeah,
because you can plug that in. You may not know anything about meta tags, but you can ask the GPT, and
Yeah,
it can help you and move you forward. So I think using it in that way where you're
sure.
not looking at it to write your articles, per se. You don't want that. You want to be authentic, but being able to ask it to help you with a long tail keywords that I need to plug in to make Google love this or whatever you want to put in there. That's the best way to use it. And then that way
Right,
you can be authentic and true to yourself, which is something we're all fighting and, hoping for in each other is authenticity and being true to ourselves. Then it gives us a chance to give back and for people to see who we are.
I also like it for a lot of, research too. So you could
Oh,
put in
yeah.
URLs competitive to say,
Hmm.
what are some articles you think I could write about that to what, you know, they're doing. And you could search keywords you like that are have to do
Absolutely.
with design and see who has the most popular blog about blue living rooms or white
Right.
paint colors or whatever that might be. And then what would I do to compete with this blog? How could
Yes.
I get SEO from this topic? That
And then
you are, you know, understanding what people are searching for. I like answer
right.
the public, and then I'll take whatever those things say because it will
Mm.
feed out. Like if you put in interior design, it gives you like a big graph that has all the questions people are asking
Yes.
about that
Yes.
topic. And
As
then
I
you
was
could
about to
take
say,
those
yeah,
and put them into Google themselves, pulls up some questions too that are
exactly.
linked to that search, and work your blog that way. So you have that as your title,
Hmm.
these are your subjects. They have nothing to do with anything. Like it could be top interior designers in the country, and then it could be like, who's the Oprah's designer?
Right, right, right.
Like,
So
like
you gotta still pick and choose.
how am I gonna make that subject line in there?
Mhm,
But, it's just playing around with these
mhm,
other searches that people have that are related to the search that you have that are kind of ways you can make that
mhm.
work. But
It takes the potential exhaustion out of adding this to your
yes,
business,
no
especially if
guessing game.
you're no guessing game. And if you're like a solopreneur like I am, you kind of have to use all the tools and you kind of have to make sure that you can do what's best for your company, but also you realize I wear too many hats to be focused on one thing all the time like I used to. That it used to be a little easier when I was just doing the design blog and I basically started the design blog because I was the main caregiver at home. My husband was working and off a lot and we didn't live near family. And so it was my way to stay in the design world and still feel like I was contributing and giving people opportunity to, do things for themselves and for their home until that moment came where I was able to starting a business and start doing this full time. And it was very valuable and it's still very valuable. And those old blog posts, and that's the other thing I want to say is nothing you write it becomes loses its value. It doesn't because somebody out there somewhere needs what you've said. And it
Right.
doesn't and so don't, start throwing away old blog posts, revamp them a little bit, but you have value and your words have value and you just never know how they're going to affect someone. And this is probably a silly example, but I will say years ago, I made this little clutch purse, okay, out of some material that you wouldn't normally make something out of from craft store. Well, because of the pattern I made and because I put it on this blog, I had this sweet gal who was a single mom and she was trying to figure out what to do. She learned how to make these little bags and she emailed me and she said, would you be okay if I created a little business with this? And she kind of just told me about her story. And I was like, honey, you take it. This is why I'm here. If you can make this viable and take care of your family. And she was so excited. She sent me pictures of her bag and the things like that. So that's what I'm saying. Something that seems so minimal and silly, a little, a purse I made out of some faux, pleather years ago is providing somebody an opportunity to be creative and make money. And she can stay home with her kids because she was a single mom and she had little ones. So, I mean, how beautiful is that? And
That's
so,
awesome.
yeah, so thinking of life in that way and as a designer, just the value we can bring to people. And so I think life in general, I try to look at it that way. And I've had a few other stories like that too, where people have taken from something that I created or something that I shared on a blog that, and they created something new from it and was able to take off.
Oh my
And,
God.
you
That's the
know,
most rewarding thing ever. It
it
really is when
is.
someone comes back to you. We've had that for interior design community a lot, and that's what why I keep doing it, because it's just like that stuff
Yes.
that you're helping someone in that crucial time of need this year. I noticed. How has that been going for you, Niall?
Good.
Yeah, it's not scary.
For them?
It's not scary.
No, no, I don't know. I don't find it scary. I used to find it daunting and,
Dang.
yeah, but I don't now I just I talk about the things I want to talk about, and just sort of
Mhm.
try to tie them back into interiors or beauty or travel or something like that. So no, I don't I try to find what inspires me and then I just talk
Mm.
about that. And try to, pull it back into interior. So not scary. There are things that I don't know. Like you were talking about the Google, I think you said Google dashboard or something.
Console. Yeah.
Console.
Console, Search Console.
Yeah. See, that's the kind of stuff that we don't know. We don't know that stuff.
It is.
So
And it's not just that's not also that is that Google I think Google is their own worst enemy. I mean, honestly, they make
For
everything
sure.
well,
so much harder than it really they speak programmer language and not
Mhm.
human.
yeah.
Like
Well, I
like
mean, then this whole thing with their core analyst updates, I'm like, seriously, just leave it alone. We are
right,
doing fine.
That's,
right.
yeah. Yeah.
Go leave.
Yeah.
Let me be
They're
me.
changing things all the time. I mean,
All
I'm just
Mhm.
the Google My Business feature where
Mhm.
you're listing it's like the yellow pages, listing where your
Yes.
business is. That has changed names at least 5 times, and it's changed URLs multiple times. I'm like, how are
Mhm.
people supposed to know what to do when this you literally keep changing what it is and what it
Right.
does all the time.
Right.
And
Right.
it should be as simple as what it was, like the yellow pages. This is like the yellow pages for
Yes.
online, and, you can't keep changing it because you're confusing everything, you know? And
Yeah. So
there's
you don't know when to jump in, and so
when to jump
it
in
just.
and what to do. And I
Mhm.
tell people, I'm like, it is as important as just even having a website in general to have your Google My Business listing,
Oh,
because
for
that's
sure.
linked to maps. It's linked
Mhm.
to this is a business.
Mhm.
This is a
Well,
business. Same as
and it lets you, and I haven't looked, so I may be wrong, but it would let you also add your, some blog stories in there
sure,
and your Instagram. And so you could, kind of tie that into as well. So it's another great place to drop
new
your stuff,
thing.
your new
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And shows Google that you're active, that your business is
yes.
still active. So when you're not on
Yes.
there at all. So this is
Hmm.
some of the things that have happened through the years that I've been doing this is like people get their web developer to start it. And then
Right.
you don't use that web developer anymore and they can't log into it anymore. It's happened numerous times to numerous
Yes.
designers, I know. Your location changes and it's very difficult to change your location through
Yeah.
the
There's a lot of hoops to jump through.
there's a lot of hoops to jump. You just can't figure it out. You literally can't figure it out. The other thing is if you have multiple locations in general, even the brands have this problem where they're trying to put in a location, like having a location in Boston, and then they have another location in New York and another location in LA. Managing those as individual things, but they're still one company. So they might have like really bad reviews for their showroom in Boston, but really great reviews from in LA, and how do they
Yeah.
manage all of the reviews that come in? And try to make sure when I go to a permanent showroom and I will just say this out there for you designers, give the brands a review. They love you. They notice it right away. Like I was just
Yes.
at Kravitz in Boston and visiting Lazarus, who is their chief innovation officer, came in and talked about Apple, the new Apple Vision Pro and how they're going to be integrating technology, AR, VR into development of design products. And really interesting conversation, but they had bad reviews. So I was like, "Oh, I'm going to give them a good review." And then before I even got back, I had gotten a text from Dusty. You gave us a good review. Thank you so much. And they're watching it. They only had 2 reviews. So it wasn't
Oh my
like,
goch. Okay. So note to
it's
self.
private.
Yes.
Like,
We
we
need
all
to
love
get out
travel.
there.
So that's
Yeah.
crazy to me, but I was like, "Oh, I'll do that." And I do that for designers often too. So I'm like, "Okay, let's just have a day where we work with each other. We're
Mhm.
allowed to give each other reviews." So I can give a
Absolutely.
review to Niall because I work with him. I can give a review to you because we're working together right now.
Mm,
You
Mhm.
know, it doesn't have to always be clients. It
right.
could be
No.
multiple clients in the project. You could have a
Mhm.
review for the wife, the husband, the children, like the grandmother,
Yeah.
I say
different
everyone
whoever had
counts.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and they're more reviews for
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.
And you could have a
Especially
separate
when
email.
some of your design projects include the entire family and the entire family gives their opinion. It's
Yeah.
voted on. Don't ask me how I know that.
Exactly. I jumped through hoops for all of you people.
That's right. So
Yeah,
give me the vote.
give me a review. Exactly.
Oh.
It does become, I think, sometimes daunting and sometimes
Mhm.
feels like
Mhm.
you're just out there and you're
Mhm.
one voice. And I think that's in social media and that's on blogging. It's like, you
Everywhere.
feel like one voice in a million.
Yeah.
How will I matter? Who is going to, and in the beginning, when no one's reading it, it's really like, why am I doing this?
Oh,
No one is reading this,
absolutely.
you
Except your
know?
mone.
Yeah. I mean,
Who
but
it
anyone not
was.
reading it.
I had my mom and maybe a sister or an aunt. No, they're per.
Oh, that's good because not they don't even. I don't even have them reading.
Oh, oh my.
You're like,
Well,
no,
I'm
I'm
going to come
busy.
read now.
What's this about a podcast? I'm like, oh my, never mind.
I love it.
Yeah. So,
So
But
what you
that's
do
how
is
it
you got to
feels.
have someone send it to them. Then
Yes.
they'll click on it, and
that's
then they're like,
true.
Yeah.
"Oh, okay."
That's true. Yeah. That's true.
Yes.
Um,
I'll send you a $5 gift card if you read my
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
and
it
then quiz
works.
them at the end to make sure they really did.
Yeah. Exactly. You gotta pass the quiz. You gotta pass the
That's
quiz.
right.
The gift card.
Those are 3 things.
Yep. Mhm. It's good.
Yes. It
Oh.
just feels annoying, I think, sometimes to people and they don't recognize. But I will tell you, Laurel used to say it takes 2 years. It
Mhm,
takes 2 years. It's
mhm.
like going
Believe that.
and getting your master's. You have to be consistent with it for 2 years and you'll start to see payoff and you'll start
Yes.
to see, you will actually, once you can
Mhm.
implement ad work, and there are lots of different ads companies I will tell you out there. So you shop around. I mean, Google
Mhm.
AdWords is one, but they're the lowest paying.
They're the
So look
lowest
at,
paid, yeah.
yeah, find different services
But it's
that
a
pay
great place to
more.
start.
It's a good place to start if you're just starting out. They kind of accept almost everybody.
They
So
do.
yeah,
Because
so
they
they're
accepted me back in the day, so
yeah,
they
yeah.
do.
So you can,
Mhm,
but then you can start to get
mhm,
better services that pay
mhm,
more per view,
mhm.
and it's not always on sales or clicks. It's on views, so it's on a
It is.
thousand
It's
views.
on
So
session. Yeah,
session,
and
so
then your return on each session, the dollar amount can be high. And
sure,
so sometimes because of this silly, and I'm using the word silly, Google core update, I had a little bit of a tanking in my numbers and it was a little concerning. But because of my dollar amount per session was high, I didn't see as much of a decrease as I probably would have if I had a lower, percentage per session on as far as dollar amount.
right.
So that's another great reason to stay consistent and move yourself out of Google AdSense to one of the other companies. And
Yeah.
there's some great ones out there. She Media is wonderful. That's who I'm with right now because they're very good to you if you have a lower number, but you're consistent and you're increasing. But they'll take a chance on people. I've seen them do it for friends and they took off, but they give people a chance and it's a great organization. So She Media is
Yeah.
a great one if
I
you're
like,
looking
I mean,
to
you can
monetize.
also use ChatGPT, figure those out, start figure out
Yes.
what the minimum requirements are because it's
Mhm.
usually based on page views.
Right. Because
And
media buying is, I think it's what's it, 50,000 or
yeah,
more now.
yeah,
So, but they've opened up Journey. So that's another opportunity.
sure. Sure.
just
And
come
then you
out.
can also manage them yourself, which is a very
Yeah.
tricky thing to do,
Yep.
but it's something I'm leaning toward because so we're going to be testing our initial ads as just people who are already sponsors. The reason I have been kind of interested in that is because the people who have the biggest marketing budgets who want to reach interior designers, which is our audience,
Right.
are like Restoration Hardware and, brands I know aren't not necessarily designed, but say they are, So in my opinion anyway, don't want to get sued.
Yeah, that
But I think that I would want to make sure that I am actually putting on product line, any ad would be valuable to the audience instead of just
right.
like trying to get like-minded businesses. I'd want something to be good that they would really want to respond to. And sometimes I'll put an ad in there probably for free just in knowing that I'm like, I really like this. I think the
Mhm.
designers could use it.
Next, yeah.
That
Yeah.
would be good for them. So if,
Mhm.
we're using this new Descript tool for our podcast and I've been editing video on it as well. And I like how quickly it edits video. And so I am going to be obviously sharing them because I think that designers struggle with that. It's really
Oh, for
hard to
sure.
edit video and it's hard to get those and out of the and automatically takes those out.
That's
And
brilliant.
you can also edit it like it's a Word document. So if I say something I don't want to say, I can just delete it and it deletes it in the video instead of having me kind of come in there and cut it. And I think that's what designers struggle with is splitting and cutting and
The
doing some
time involvement.
basic things. The time involvement, it's like
Yes.
that could take them 2 hours to do
Mhm.
that instead of
Easily.
just quickly, they know how to type and delete. so,
Yeah,
so
and you're right, and those 2 hours end up being 4 to 5 hours because you're mixing in so many other things that have to happen and deadlines that are
sure.
being met. So that's a great idea.
Yeah, so things that I know are valuable and
Mhm.
I know designers would respond to, I'd be open to that kind of thing too, but I just think from a designer perspective, you could even do that yourself with the local businesses that also
You
already
sure can.
work with like the luxury market. So your local, this would be a great way to network with your audience to say, "Hey, I'm going to be putting some ads on my site. I
Mhm.
could have an ad for you. You could have an ad for me. So the local steakhouse, the local
Right.
Mercedes, the local, anybody who
Mhm.
services the esthetician, whatever that might be, ski resort, whatever. You can even have ChatGPT give you a list of
Mhm.
everybody who's luxury industry in a 50-mile radius from where you live and
Right.
you have 100 businesses, and there
Yeah.
you to them and give me their email and start by trying to send out emails and say,
Mhm.
how can we work together? How can these are my
Right.
ads together. I could put an ad on my site for your
Mhm.
stuff, or I could talk about what you're doing, or I could
Mhm.
kind of create a content piece that is about what you have, but also tie it into what we do, like
Again, those backlinks, right?
backlinks,
Doing the backlinks are very important, and
Yeah,
even if that's all you do with your blog is just so that you can create these backlinks and, I've worked with other companies. I worked with Liberty Hardware and I've worked with Rockler Woodworking Furniture, and we've done some collaborations together. And, those blog posts are still being seen. So they're still using the content. People are still finding that content online, and I'm still getting, connections through it. So these people that you're seeing, these brands that you're doing collabs with, maybe Instagram, here's another avenue to offer that's actually going to probably be more evergreen and live longer because it goes, you can put it on Pinterest, and it's another value, like you're saying, as adding the ads and adding opportunity that these brands will
right.
appreciate.
That a blog is lasts 2 years, a
Mhm.
half-life, the 6 months. Instagram
Mhm.
is 6 hours.
That's
Just
why we have to keep,
yeah,
and if you take and create new pins for those blogs and then you reshare them, then it has new life again on Pinterest.
sure.
So
Mm,
you don't even have to redo the blog. You make a new pin.
And
yep.
make a mistake.
Yeah.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, change the wording a little bit. And so then so these are the little things that kind of take some of the pressure off, and that wonderful piece of material you created, you keep it going, you keep it thriving and nurturing it. And then, like you said, when Google decides the count needs to be higher, well, you go back in and you zhuzh it up and you add a little extra and
Sure.
send it out again. Kind of like your children,
Totally.
fix their hair and put a dress on or, a little suit on and send them out again.
Love it. I love it. And, we are doing in March 27th, 28th, we're going to Phoenix for Design Edge.
Yes.
And we're giving designers, an opportunity to sit down with brands, having conversation. And one of the things I wanted to include in that was blogging. I think lots of brands want to reach designers, but they're not
Yes.
designers, they're brands. So I think,
Right.
collaborations could include blogging for brands, pinning for brands. I'm talking like paid opportunity type
Oh,
conversation.
absolutely. Yes.
And obviously it would link to you because you could make a backlink on your, authorship bio. And then
Right.
you also can ask them, how about, working with their PR agency if you have a really great project and you want to get press, or how you can have them share images and things that I know designers want and brands both want. They both
Right.
want those things. How do we make it actually happen? So some of that
Yes.
conversation we'd love to see go that way and see, 6 months down the road, the fruition of all of that. So the conversation's getting
great idea.
better, and also those actual deliverables happening so that the brands are talking to designers differently because they have designers who are blogging with them,
Yeah.
And this is stuff it's not reinventing the wheel. We're just polishing it. And, that's the value of this too. This is not something that's brand new technology, kind of like ChatGPT that we're learning and trying to understand how AI works. Blogging is writing, and we all have a story and we all have a point of view. And so why not connect it to brands, and why not let those brands see their product line in a new light? And I
Sure.
love that you're going to bring this to Design Edge. I think that's fabulous.
I think it's really an important conversation because it's a specific client, right? So
It
the
is.
way the retailer works is how many of that sofa can I sell this month? A designer doesn't work that way at all. You can't be like,
They
okay, I'm going to
shouldn't.
tell 12 of these sofas this month. I don't know how I'm going to
Right.
do it, but I'm doing it. I'm just going to tell every client, you have to use this sofa. I don't know what you care, what you like.
Oh
This
my
is-
gosh, I have a story about that. But anyway, not about me, but someone else.
I want them, I think that if that happens the way I'd like it to happen, not only will the response from other designers be greater because they're responding to another designer's writing it, so they get them, right? They understand
Absolutely.
them, but it also will teach the brand this piece of information about how a designer works in a different way.
Yes,
Their
it
full
kind of
organization.
resurrect that resource that's sitting there
Yeah.
waiting to be used.
Yeah. We have reps that follow us and we have brands that follow us. And every single time I go to an event, every single time, Niall will back me up on this because you've been with me numerous times when this happens. The brands will say, I learned so much about how designers work from listening.
Yeah.
They don't respond. They're not typing in all the time, but they're listening to the problems you have, how, we source solutions, and they work with their clients differently because they are learning. It's like being a fly in the wall to know what the problems are. They don't know. They didn't know before interior design community what problems were actually happening. So I know the businesses themselves, some of the businesses have changed the way they do things just because they've been able to listen. They've been able to react to problems. So if someone mentions their brand, they can kind of swoop in and fix it. And they also have trained their reps differently, or the reps that are in there are learning how to work with designers differently. And we're trying to, I used to get feedback from designers sometimes. I don't like that there are some brands in here and there are some reps in here. And I don't like that some of them follow you because I don't want them to hear what I'm saying badly about them. But I always would say, well, why don't you want the solution?
Right.
It's great, to have a place to vent. I love that too, but we want to create actual solutions to the problems for everybody, not just
And
you,
you can vent without burning a bridge. I mean,
sure. You can be really mad without going off the rails.
Exactly.
It's okay. It's the problem that's the enemy, not
Right.
brand or the designer,
I like it.
So I love that there's solution oriented things happening because of it. That designers have felt that some of that. Like I know design on the other flip side, I've had designers who said like I came into the group, I talked about a discontinued fabric, and immediately I was getting an email with somehow somebody found it in the backlog, or I got
Oh,
invited
that's
on a trip by a
beautiful.
brand because saw us in the group, and those are things I love just as much, believe me. So
Oh, yeah.
however you can make that or a community of people talking is so powerful. But
Like you were saying, you're being fruitful
yeah,
and that fruit coming in many different directions.
sure. But and it's similar to what you were saying. It feels
Mhm.
good when that
Yes.
kind of thing, when you're putting the pieces together,
Uh-huh.
however that might be, the that is bearing fruit down the road for someone else, even
That's right.
not
And you
even
may not,
you, and
we
that's
may not
so
even
good.
see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there are people 10 years ago, and it
Hmm.
was the perfect thing for the perfect person that day. I have a
Yes.
little story that I had been experiencing grief, and I
Mm.
stumbled upon a Reddit post, which is not a blog, but kind of. And that Reddit post was so like profound to me of what it is and how it basically is, it's like being in a storm in the beginning. It's like there's waves all around you and you don't know when they're going to come. But eventually, that shipwreck calms down. But every once in a while, you'll see something coming. It'll be a birthday or a holiday, and you'll feel it again and it
Mhm.
tear you apart. But it's just a representative of love. That's really, and that's what
Yes.
you'd want. Having great love means having great loss, and that hurts. And it was really poetic, better than what I'm saying. And
Mhm.
I kept it. And every time somebody I know goes through a grief moment, I like will set a calendar reminder to wait 6 months, to send them this post because it was so helpful to me. I mean, it really was super helpful to me.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have absorbed it right away. So I always set a reminder if it's a friend of mine has like something going on, I'll send it to them like 6 months, 8 months, and I will write back to them and say, "Oh, I found this. I thought of you. It helped me. I hope it helps you." That kind of situation. But you don't know. I'm sure this person who wrote that forever ago, doesn't even know. And I never wrote a comment or
Right.
responded to it, but I share it with people and I still read it sometimes because if there is a bad month, of like
Yes.
grief for me, then I will take it out and kind of think about it. And, I think that we don't know how we affect other people. We don't.
That's
We
Yeah.
right.
really don't. And the
Good
impact,
or bad. Good
right,
or
right,
bad. Hmm.
right. And you hope it's good, but that ripple
Yes.
effect could be much bigger than you know. You could be giving
That's
someone,
right.
maybe it's someone going through divorce and
Mhm.
they really want to redo their house, and they stumble across your blog about how to redo their bedroom and make it a sanctuary, and they
Mhm.
decide to do that for themselves, and it's like the first wonderful thing that happened to them in a long
Yeah, the
time. You know
step
what I mean?
step toward healing. We don't
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
We
We
could
don't
be a part
know.
of their path. And how beautiful
Right.
is that?
And I
Mhm.
guarantee you that's what you should hold on to when you're
Yes.
like you're talking to no one,
Hmm.
because you be there
Hmm.
for a long time to come and you don't know who it is going to impact.
That's
Include
right.
people that you have in your own life, like circle, that are very close to you. Someday your daughter might read your words because
Hmm.
they miss you and they want to feel close to you and they're just out there so that they're available
That's
to
right.
read.
Mhm.
So someday, we had a designer that had passed away and we had interviewed her years
Mm.
ago and just was a little girl when she passed away. And now she's a teenager. And I was like, we did interview her to her sister. And so I dug up YouTube from 10 years ago that we did interview with her. And I gave it to her sister so that she had that interview. And, it's like to hear your mom's voice, to hear the way talking, to talk, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
those kinds of things that I don't think
That's right.
we really truly, I don't think we have an understanding of
No.
the impact we have on other people.
Yeah.
I
Like,
don't think we allow ourselves to realize that we have a purpose, and
sure.
sometimes that purpose maybe nothing to do with what we think our purpose is. And, don't get so caught up in what you think, just live life and let, let the things that come to you and let the things that leave you,
Yeah.
because people are watching and people are going to value how you handled something or decide they're not going to do it that way because they saw you
Sure,
handle something. But
sure.
let's err on the side of the good,
Yes,
way of
like,
handling
don't
things.
take in the bad,
Right.
try to take in the good, and try to
Yes.
think of the future as the impact will
Hmm.
be. I can tell you, just from my own social media and growing it for the through the years, there are far more readers who just paying attention than commenters or
Yes.
likers, or
Yes.
there are people who read your stuff every day you don't even know about. They might have maybe you're special to them and you don't even know. And that I always think of it as like an iceberg. You're only seeing the tip of who is responding and okay telling you
Right.
they saw it and taking the time, but you don't know the impact underneath. You have no idea how big that is or how many views that is. And I wish people got as much positive. I mean, we've been doing interior design community a long time. We've grown really big. I hear a lot of positive feedback. But when I first started, it felt a lot like yelling into the ether. It felt a lot like talking to nobody. For the
Yes.
first year or two, it really did. It felt like I was talking to myself. Why am I doing this? This is
Mm.
nuts. I
Until
don't
the
know why I'm doing it.
foundation.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
you start building it and it starts, you figure out a new thing and that takes off. I first started on Twitter. And I joined a few Twitter groups.
Wow.
I was on Twitter for 2 years before I started interior design community on Google Plus. Interior design community on Google Plus took off, but on Twitter, I was feeling like for 2 years, like I'm just talking to nobody. Like I really
I still feel that way on Twitter.
like I'm like just talking and nobody responds. And so I joined those Twitter chats and I had this woman who ran the Twitter chat who wasn't very nice. And I was like, oh, I don't like that. No. She was like, "That's my hashtag. You can't use it."
Oh my God.
I'm like, "Look then, I'm gonna sue you." I was like, "Why you sue me?"
Ooh,
No.
I had no idea. I didn't even know that was like, you're not gonna win
you-
that. It's a
yeah.
hashtag.
Exactly.
Own a hashtag? Jeez. Give me a
Oh,
break.
go sit down.
Really? Really?
I was like, I don't think she knows how Twitter works.
No.
That's
Clear
how
enough.
it was really, but I had all of those issues happening, and I'm sure there are people out there today that are like, "I'm posting on Instagram. I hate doing it.
Mhm.
I'm not getting anything from it. Why am I doing it? It's a waste of time." And I would say, first of all, they feel you hate it because
Right.
you're not doing it with any kind of interest.
Exuberance or
Yeah, yeah.
interest. Yeah.
So you're just doing it as a slog, and that's not fun for anybody to follow along with. So you
No,
need to
and you
change
can't
that.
maintain it. You cannot
No,
maintain it when there's no happiness, there's no joy,
no.
there's no
You
excitement.
have to find what you love about it.
Yes.
Yes, that
And
means not doing the blog. Sometimes that means not doing
right.
Instagram
Or
too.
not doing it all the time. I mean, give
Sure.
yourself a break. Say you're going to make one blog post a month. That's okay.
Well, look at
Or
my Chapel
mhm.
Run one, right? She has been doing this 12 she looks like a very young woman, but she has been doing this for 12 years. She's been through multiple rebrands as and this new, like, red hair and turquoise eyes and, you know, clowny, like, makeup is no that's new for her branding. But she's been singing, she's been dropped by labels, and she's waitressed for 12 years. She's done jobs. And we think, and I thought watching her, she's a perfect example. Like, I thought she was just like this new breakout star. I had no idea she's been doing it for 12 years. No
Right.
clue. And that's the way most things are. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not,
No.
there's going to be many reinventions. Sometimes you're not doing it at all, but if you're still coming back to it, and I can
Yes.
tell you, interior design community was that way. There were times that I didn't post for 5 months at all. And then I would post again and somebody would be like, she's I'd be like,
You
okay.
just were making them messier. That's all.
But you just life
Life.
happens. And we all don't have always enough to give
That's right.
to all of this, to
Mhm.
social media, to blogging. We don't always have enough left over to give.
That's right.
And that's okay. It doesn't mean you're out of the game and you're starting over. You're not really starting over if you decide to do a blog today, or it's just a continuation or reinvention of what you've been thinking about, and
Mhm.
you're better and you're smarter now because you know
Mhm.
more.
Mhm.
So I love
Yeah,
that.
and the times that your season allows you to be consistent and either blog a lot or do a lot of
Sure.
Instagram, embrace it. And then I think this is something that I struggle with is when my season changes and I don't have that opportunity, it's okay. It's
Sure.
okay to get out that
Forgive
one or
yourself.
two.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, that and
Yeah.
that the season will come back around that I will be able to consistently crank it out again. And I think
Sure.
that's something because I know I'm a recovering perfectionist, and I know a lot of interior designers are recovering perfectionists. It's hard for us to scale back and go, okay, you know what? I recognize the season I'm in. I'm going to do what I can, and it's all right. And
Yeah.
I'm going to focus on what needs to be focused on right now. And so I think instead of giving everything up and throwing it away, putting the towel in, and I'll say that from experience because I did that for a little while. And it's taken me a while to kind of crank back up into it because it's changed so much since,
Oh, yeah.
I was consistent and I was, reading all the things about what to do next with the blogs and what to do next with the social media. And when you step away completely, it just keeps going. And so then you jump back in, you're like, whoa, this is totally different from where I was 6 months ago. What are we doing now? And then, there's a whole brand new thing that, we have to change and redo. And then that's where it gets exhausting. And that's where
Sure.
you start to feel defeated. So I think it's, just going into all of this as just a part of your business, not everything,
And
then
if you're not
you can
doing
do
it
it.
correctly, let's just say if you don't have Google Console and you
Right.
don't webmaster tools and you don't
Right.
know how to search SEMrush or Answer
Hmm.
Public, let's just say all this is new to you. If you're just writing something and you don't care about keywords and you don't care about all of those things, that still matters.
It still
It's
does
still,
because
you
when
don't
it
know who,
does matter, you can go back and fix it and add to
sure.
it.
Sure, or you don't. I mean, you don't know that
You
it
don't.
doesn't reach an audience at all.
That's right.
Just because you're
That's
not
right.
doing it exactly perfectly or exactly the way doesn't mean it's not reaching your specific audience. I mean,
That's
for
right.
so many, they don't wanna be international blogging experts. They just want local customers.
Probably 99.9% do not.
Yeah. It's like, I just want the local people to find me, and
Right.
so if those people are, finding you and it not reaching, the top of the list for white paint or blue living rooms in all of the world,
And that's
that's
Right.
okay.
yeah.
It's not you don't necessarily need that. You just need your area. You
You're
just
right.
you wanna understand your own town's keywords, neighborhoods, in where you live and what they are talking about. That's what has more value, even just like old school networking mixed with it.
You're
So,
right.
it doesn't have to be big and it doesn't have to be
Right.
perfect. And you don't have to have all the knowledge to do a
No.
good job.
Just start writing.
Just
Just
start
start
writing.
doing it. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. Well, we'll end with that. That's such a great thing to end with.
Just start.
Yeah, I just
Do it.
start writing.
Yeah.
Joy has to do it, so you must.
Because I'll go read it.
Well, well.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure we have all the links for you, Joy, too, so that everyone can come follow you
Oh,
and
thanks.
find your blog and see what you're doing because I know you've been doing such a great job.
Oh, well,
Thank
I appreciate
you.
it.
Great.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Enjoyed it. Bye.
Bye.
All right.